Hello and welcome. It is Monday, November 9th, 2020, and this is Truly News. I am your host, Jason Van Sickle. As we start this week, look for opportunities to help people. Life is difficult, but it is more difficult when we don't work together. It is better when we come together and choose to help each other. So, let me now be helpful to you by increasing your knowledge and expanding your insights with a review of today's news. As always, we start our news coverage with a look at the top headline from the nation's 5 largest newspapers. And here are the headlines from USA Today. President-elect Joe Biden seeks diverse cabinet to, quote, look like America, unquote, in leading federal departments. From the Wall Street Journal, Biden charts course for new administration. President-elect's transition team reviews series of executive orders that could reverse Trump's administration policies. From the New York Times, as Biden plans for day one, GOP navigates Trump's refusal to concede. From the Los Angeles Times, from Delaware to the White House, how half a century in politics equipped Joe Biden for this moment. And from the Washington Post, Biden plans to move fast on the pandemic and the economy. And here are the stories that are currently crossing the wire at Reuters News. The U.S. crosses 10 million COVID-19 cases as third wave of infection surges. And also from Reuters, Biden to launch COVID-19 task force. Trump plans rallies to protest election. And those are your top headlines for today. To learn more, visit the Truly News print edition at trulynews.org, where you can find all of the news that we mention in this podcast with links to the original articles. And now, in our look beyond the major headlines, let's start with news from the world of science, technology, and space exploration. In science news, from Science Magazine, scientists recently discovered that the Maya, famous for their palaces and temples that have been unearthed in Mexico, also developed one of the first known water filtration systems. They use volcanic minerals to filter out heavy metals and microbes. In technology news, from CNET, as social media platforms fight a wave of misinformation following the election, Facebook is moving to begin a process of putting some groups on 60-day probation. The process would involve manual reviews and could not be appealed once in place. In space news, from Space Daily, 4 NASA astronauts arrived in Florida over the weekend to begin preparations for their launch to the International Space Station next Saturday. This will be the first launch by SpaceX, a private company, of a full 4-person crew to the space station. And that is your science, technology, and space news for today. Now, here is our announcer, Ron Johnson, with opportunities for social engagement.
Today's opportunity for social engagement is contacting your elected officials. People spend too much time on social media complaining about politics. What we need is more engagement with our elected officials who react to strong public opinion. So, when you feel strongly about an issue, then send a message to your elected officials and let your voice be heard. Contact information for local, state, and federal representatives can be found at trulynews.org/engage.
Thank you, Ron. We now return to our review of today's news with a look at health, social, and environmental news. In health news, from WebMD, as the surge of COVID cases continues across the country, the U.S. just passed 10 million confirmed cases as it approaches 250,000 deaths. Europe also struggles with a resurgence as Asian countries seem to have things under control. In social news, from the New York Times, Scientists are researching whether a sense of despair is different from depression as deaths due to despair increase. The trend is most common for white, working-class people ages 45 to 54 who struggle with alcohol or drugs used as coping mechanisms. In environmental news from Science X News Agency, new research shows that plastics pollution and rising carbon dioxide levels on the planet are threatening marine life. The increased acidification of the oceans due to pollution and global warming is killing off marine life, starting with the small and vital microbial life. And that is your health, social, and environmental news for today. Now it is time for our Words of Wisdom, brought to us by philosophy professor Albert Feinstein. And here is Dr. Feinstein.
Abraham Lincoln once said, "Democracy is government of, by, and for the people." He reminds us that democracy empowered people with self-governance. However, with many people come many opinions. So, for democracy to work, people must work together in a spirit of understanding, compromise, and cooperation. And those are your words of wisdom for today. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom and believing in your incredible potential. Good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Feinstein. And now we return to the news with a look at economic and world news. In economic news from CNBC, as the short-term unemployment rate dropped 1% to 6.9% in October, a third of the remaining unemployed have been out of work for at least 6 months. This creates a problem for the economy as many households encounter critical financial circumstances. In world news from CNN, like Britain, Japan has a monarchy that is largely symbolic but an important part of its culture. Over the weekend, Japan formally declared Prince Akishino the heir of the throne after his father resigned due to health issues and his brother became emperor. And that is your economic and world news for today. In entertainment news, we start with new movies, and today's movie is The War with Grandpa. This movie stars Robert De Niro as a grandpa whose grandson declares war on him after he is forced to share the bedroom he loves with his unwanted older house guest. The War with Grandpa is currently showing in theaters. Moving on, in newly released shows, today's show is Moonbase 8, starring John C. Reilly, Tim Heidecker, and Fred Armisen in this new comedy series as 3 astronauts trying to qualify for their first lunar mission. Episodes of Moonbase 8 are now available on Showtime. Finally, in entertainment news, we look at newly published books. And our book for today is Shake Up by Stuart Woods. This is a book about the character Stone Barrington, who must track down an enemy intent on disturbing the law. This book is number 5 on the New York Times fiction bestseller list. And that is your entertainment news for today. As always, we end our broadcast with Hope for Humanity, stories about the goodness and kindness that people show each other every day. And here is today's story. From the Richmond Times-Dispatch, 10-year-old Ava Rajappa founded the nonprofit Art Love to spread kindness and generosity to other children. Ava collects art supplies through donations and creates art kits for kids in families that are struggling with COVID, financial problems, and even homelessness. To date, she has given away over 2,600 art kits, and she says that she is doing it to make other kids feel better as they struggle through difficult times. And that is your news for October 9th, 2020. Have a wonderful day.